Okay, hi, thank you for coming. Today, I've brought you here to present an informative speech, and the goal of this speech is that by the end of the speech, you will be able to select a mouthpiece for your horn, because all of you play in the church band, and you'll be able to select it and include other mouthpieces in your selections and have a better idea of the different types of mouthpieces. So the mouthpieces I'm wanting to present to you today are Heavytop mouthpieces, and these mouthpieces are relatively new. They first began making types of Heavytop mouthpieces around in the 1970s and the 1980s. Mouthpieces are very important to brass players. Vincent Bach, which is a famous trumpet player, said, "Choosing the perfect mouthpiece is often more difficult than choosing the perfect instrument." And that's because due to relatively new studies, we've realized that the mouthpiece is just as important, if not sometimes more important, than the instrument itself. The instrument is just the amplification, and that has been taught to us by Vincent Bach and Dennis Wick and other artists. So what are Heavytop mouthpieces? Well, traditionally, this is what a cornet mouthpiece looks like. You have the rim on the outside and you have the cup on the inside, as we all know. But then the outside of the cup stops here. It ends right here, and then the shank continues down. And that is where, now that we've discovered, some of your vibrations end, and only the inner part of your vibrations that have gone inside the mouthpiece continue through the shank into the horn. But now we have Heavytop mouthpieces, as everyone can see. And Heavytop mouthpieces have the same rim and they have the same cup shape, but they have more mass on the shank. And the shank goes in, and as it's put into the horn, more mass continues and more vibrations continue into the horn, and it can cause a difference in sound. So I'm going to pass around two Heavytop mouthpieces for all of you all to look at. So what's the history of Heavytop mouthpieces, or Bach megatones, or the traditional Monet mouthpieces? Well, the history is that in the 1970s and the 1980s, they would add a weight. So they would slip on where you would have a regular cornet mouthpiece, or regular trumpet mouthpiece. They would add on weight to make it look like this. They would add on extra metal, or even sometimes like washers and other things to make it heavier. But this opens up the throat end of the mouthpiece, which is where the air goes in, which is when we're buzzing, the air goes in, and it also can create a darker tone, and that's what the Heavytop mouthpieces strive to achieve. And now that you know that, the thicker design and the open throat sometimes assist with the sound waves like we talked about earlier, and you can have a darker tone while you're playing, and there's easier slotting, which just means for the player it's easier for us to hit some of the notes in the lower register. Now that you know about the Heavytop mouthpieces and a little bit of the history, I'm going to give you three brands that are well known that make mouthpieces and instruments, and then two famous players. The Vincent Bach brand, the Monet brand, and the Dennis Wick brand are all famous brands that make brass instruments and that make brass mouthpieces, and they all have their own version of the Heavytop mouthpiece. And then two famous players, two famous jazz artists, Adam Rappa, who plays on a Heavytop Monet mouthpiece, and Byron Wallen, who plays on a Heavytop Dennis Wick mouthpiece. So now that I'm finished with my presentation, next time when you're going to study and look for new options for your mouthpiece, I hope that you include a Heavytop option. Thank you.